All right, first things first, before the meat of this video, the thing most people are probably wondering is, where trailer? So in my last Stormfellers update, I estimated a December release of a trailer, and December is almost over. So here's what's going on, and some of you, if you've already seen my job posting on Twitter, already know a bit of this. So progress on Stormfellers is going great. We're making forward progress on animating, environments, all that. The thing about a trailer is that it requires shots to be essentially finished. To finish our shots, we need to render them, which means all of the CG elements need to be looking their best and as intended. Now, because Stormfellers is NPR, or non-photorealistically rendered, previously we had a solution for our rendering that stemmed from a Blender plugin called Lightning Boy Shader, made by Lightning Boy Studio. It wasn't cel-shaded exactly like the stock LBS, but it was a jumping off point. So all that was left to do was fine-tuning each thing for each scene. Now, a few months ago, we upgraded to Blender 3.6, which my animators needed in order to quickly finish their shots and collaborate easily. The problem was I started seeing texture breaking and shaders not really making sense, and after troubleshooting for about a day, I got a response from Lightning Boy Studio who said that the last supported version of Lightning Boy Shader is for Blender 3.4, and they were working on making it for newer versions. But more recently, like the beginning of this month, they publicly concluded that they couldn't keep working on it because of the changes to Blender 4.0. And the fact that Blender keeps updating and breaking plugins is a little annoying, I'd say. So that late development left us kind of at square one with shading and rendering. I have been slowly chipping away at it. It's not detrimental. It's just that with the amount of things I'm juggling, I'd prefer to just bring an expert on, and maybe because it's the end of the year, but I have yet to really meet the right person to consult and help us find a solution. So as with anything, it's just a matter of time and money, and because neither of those things are in abundance right now, we aren't making the December estimate for a trailer. Hopefully that makes sense. Appreciate your patience, and even though it is essentially outside of my control, I apologize if you're disappointed. I am as well, and we'll have something as soon as possible. So it's definitely weighing on me a bit. It's not something where I'm complaining. I don't know, there's a lot of people out there who are dealing with far worse. It is just really a matter of time and money though, so if there is something that I make or offer that you are already considering getting anyway, it does directly support development of this pilot, which is a huge undertaking. So I'm learning to be a little more reflective and not 100% future focused. And of all the years I can recount, this really wasn't a good or bad year explicitly. In fact, I think it's had some of the most highs and lows for me personally. They're just kind of tearing at each extreme. And I'm curious if that's ended up being your experience too. This isn't a teaching video or anything big. We're just talking and reflecting a bit, sort of an update type thing, but more officially capping off 2023 a bit. So the elephant in the room, I think, for most people, especially artists, is this kind of whirlwind combination of bad things in the air. We have had 12 more months of AI stuff, my least favorite topic. And while there are the little jobs it's taking or the little test examples that big companies try to get away with, AI is to me less like a big foreboding wave of inevitable change and just like a talking point for the most annoying person you've ever met. If I can relate it to anything, it's like the Y2K bug scare in its own way. Back in 1999, everyone was scared that computers would hit the date January 1st, 2000 and stop working, and it never happened, but there was this huge scare around it. AI is a little more nuanced, but it's basically like way too many hype men and people who don't understand what the work and skill and quality should actually be, and companies trying to save money all swirling around. And obviously it's like 100% theft. It's not artificial intelligence, it's just parsing and amalgams of the things that it scraped from people, and it costs way too much money and energy to be sustainable. So I'm sure some people will keep using it down the line, but ultimately I think once the legal stuff is shaken out and the public opinion sort of turns against it, which I almost immediately start seeing, it will mostly go away. But right now we have to contend with people using it instead of hiring people for little things, and idea man archetypes who want to have done something but can't be bothered to actually put the work in to make it. And the work is like 90% of the thing. So what's left is the annoying things like people that you have to educate about it who don't know any better on what it actually entails, or like the comments that I will get every couple of weeks where they're like, yeah, I'm a character designer too. Right now I've been generating prompts from, no, you ain't. Not a character designer. And it brings with it an unfortunate skepticism that I feel like I've had to develop, where I have to scrutinize whether the thing I'm looking at is real or not. I mean, Google image search and Pinterest for reference photos are measurably worse than they were a year ago. There's like a 12-fingered hand and cats being lay epic in space for every authentic photo. Apart from anything legal or ethical, I just fundamentally can't bring myself to enjoy or appreciate a piece of art that was generated by a computer instead of being human-made. And that's where a computer made the decisions, quote unquote, not like using a CG program to light a scene or run cloth simulations. Obviously, those are tools in the hands of people still making decisions. It just removes the most valuable and interesting element of why we like art in the first place, whether it's a visual medium or a music or written language. The best art is saying and expressing something. Like if you wanted to light up particular neurons just for the sake of it, you might as well be using mind-altering substances. Just go straight for the chemical and cut out the middleman of being trough-fed your entertainment from a series of ones and zeros that guessed, based on averages that it established by scraping real humans' works, what would placate you. It's ridiculous and like dystopian. So anyway, there's that, and like the strike that affected a lot of the entertainment industry for a better part of the year. Social media got markedly worse for independent creators. Like the Twitter that I knew is almost functionally dead. There's rising costs, 6,000 people getting laid off in the games industry, and general demonetizable world conditions. I can truthfully say that it was not the best year for a lot of people. And more so than quite a bit of recent memory, I see people struggling. Again, not doom and gloom and not needlessly complaining, just going to call this year as I see it. A rough one for artists, with the hope that the next 4 seasons bring on some better conditions. But I even had a sort of complex about not really doing any kind of end-of-the-year sales or marketing of the course or Biko's backpack or anything like that. Not in any particularly noble or virtue-signally way. I just didn't want to add to the noise and could sort of sense that like people couldn't do it this year, you know? Those lows were all present for me, making it one of the most difficult work years that I've had, but there were quite a few highs and improvements that I was able to enjoy, whether in my work or in spite of it. Earlier this year, I did the math and figured out that I had 34 days of work to do every 25 days, which, as we all know, is extremely doable. And while I'm still working on actually balancing everything out to be sustainable, there's some places that ended up making some big changes. I moved away from making weekly videos at the beginning of last year. But this year I really started to get rid of the fear of not uploading and really moving away from needing to upload something new just for the sake of it. And instead making a video when I was ready to and had something that I wanted to make, which represents a huge difference both in the quality of the thing as I'm making it, and it's 100% something you folks can sense. The kind of videos that I made and the way that I used to make them when the channel started and a few years ago isn't really what works or what people are interested in these days. And as that taste changes, and mine has too, I think I've slowly figured out how and why a video works in the present day, and hopefully got a little bit better at that. I don't know about the total views without going into the analytics, but I think with fewer uploads overall, we had more hits proportionally, and I think healthier performance than last year and the year before, which is a far cry from just uploading something every single week purely to say that I did. There's still a lot of learning to be done and a lot of experimentation that I'm really antsy to try, so lots to look forward to. A rather annoying wrench that I dealt with this year: for 4 years, I've been shipping Biko's backpack. I've been able to do it internationally for a low enough cost that it either broke even or it made sense. Every once in a while, a package would get returned, but then this summer, they started all coming back, which I thought was strange because I've talked to my local post office folks. Almost all of them are the nicest, most helpful people. So longest possible story short, a change in cost over the summer, along with literally like one super rude clerk, the rest of them, again, being some of the nicest people. This one, his own postmaster, was like, oh, we're working on him. We've gotten quite a few reports. Not sure how you keep your job when that's how you treat customers. Anyway, so it meant that a domestic package was $4 to ship, and some of the internationals were like $18 to $26. So we're going to change things up slightly in January. There will actually be more items, no increase in cost to you. It works out to be a lot better for all involved, but that was an annoying thing on top of everything else, to say the least. Some good things, though. We got to travel quite a bit this year, a lot of it because of work. There was the Procreate Dreams reveal in London, which they brought me out for. We had an amazing Lightbox Expo, which Tay came with me to, and it was 1,000% better time having her with me there, helping at the table, sharing the experience with her. And it really was like a year's worth of artists talking and meeting crammed into 3 days. Tay took this one photo of me, which was at a certain point where it was all starting to hit me that so many kind people had come up and either expressed interest in Stormfellers or came up because they appreciated the videos, and that a lot of them were either other artists who I've looked up to forever, like sharing a mutual appreciation for each other's work, or people that work at the big animation studios, Disney, DreamWorks, Nickelodeon, Warner Brothers, or the big game studios, Nintendo, Riot, Blizzard, and liked what I was doing or have been supporting or wanted to talk more later or like bought a Biko plush. And it's crazy because I've taken this very different career path than a lot of people and grown, I think, slower than most other artists thanks to being dumb as bricks. And it was kind of nice to feel accepted by not only people that I was a fan of, but people in like conventionally prominent or successful positions, which is definitely not me trying to like brag there. It just in the context of it was extremely nourishing for someone that has felt like an outsider even during my time working professionally. And I mean, there are limits to the kind of interaction that can happen through like YouTube comments. So many people don't even leave a comment, or a few people comment in a way that's less than positive. So it was like just the antidote for isolation, even more so than in previous years of Lightbox. And on a personal level, removed from work, which is why I say this year was so great in spite of work. We camped a few times. We're hammock people now. We got to see family in the Pacific Northwest thanks to a surprise trip from Tay. And ever since we moved during the pandemic, we've kept in contact with some great old friends, but have also met some amazing new ones. And that's made life a lot busier, but markedly more fun and well-rounded, like full and dimensional and not just survival mode all the time, even if that's what work ends up being like. In hand with that, I've gotten a much better handle on my ADHD this year. I still work too hard like I did in September through November and then deal with burnout as a direct result. I will learn one of these days. But it's funny, when I need to work, I get super introverted and sometimes stressed out. But once I hit like a weekend day or time marked as off or am with friends, I've been able to develop the ability to just turn off the stress and actually get a little extroverted. For lack of a better explanation, I just feel like more of a whole valid person than I have in the past, which is pretty big. I'm still driven and way too perfectionisty, but I'm like at least 40% less dying on the inside, which is nice. Thanks to a year or two of saving and a few choice sponsorships, I was able to completely renovate this office, finally, and make a space that my mind can actually think in and enjoy being in and move the camera around in, and I'm quite thankful to have gotten to this place. I still struggle with adding new things, new disciplines, ideas, projects, channels, things I want to learn and improve, things that I want to do. I want to use this goofy little avatar guy for stuff, and that sometimes leaves me spinning my wheels a bit. There's so much that I love to be doing or be good at with only so much time budget realistically. Like I'd love to stream like I used to, even if it was just as I'm working on Stormfellers environment assets. Maybe that ends up being non-spoilery enough that it's possible. One thing that I have been working on, I plan to be done with this sooner, is an all-new Module 1 of the Learn Character Design course, the drawing one. It's updated, more in-depth, and just higher quality, not just in the drawing quality, but I made it a little bit more engaging. I struggle myself getting through courses sometimes when it feels like they're long and drawn out, and I want to lower the amount of discipline that it takes you to get through it. So the goal here is to gradually refresh the whole course that way. That'll be free for everyone that already has the course or Module 1, but it will 100% be going up in price when that launches. Not up 100%. It's certain that it'll go up. So the best time as always to grab that is sooner rather than later. Let's see, I rolled credits on Mario RPG, Cocoon, both great games. The ending of Kirby and the Forgotten Land is one of the best endings in a co-op experience. I 100%ed Pikmin 4, an incredible entry into my favorite game series. I put my Game Boy games in cassette cases, a sentence that makes no sense to anyone under 25. I kit bashed this little guy this week for a friend's Star Wars tabletop RPG, a sentence that makes no sense to anyone cooler than me by outdated nerd metrics. We made it to the gym about 3 to 4 times a week on average, and I think with that, I've talked about myself for longer that I'm comfortable with or even thought was possible. I'll throw this out there, though, for everyone who made it to the end. I'm thinking about opening up commissions sometime soon, maybe some profile pictures or things like that, a way to kind of keep those muscles moving. And as always, I'm taking on freelance work, 2D and 3D generalist stuff, specializing in characters, so reach out if you or your studio is interested. Contact for that's on my website. But what about you? How's the last 12 months been for you? Any common parallel thoughts? I feel like a lot of those things are common, but maybe you're isolated from it, or you've found a way to deal with it a lot better, or you're thriving despite all that stuff. My course, Learn Character Design, is at learncharacterdesign.com. And of course, you can get Bigo's backpack at patreon.com/BagelDenizen. Thanks so much for watching, and have fun creating. That's it. Bye, big man.